Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. The title of this talk is Programming Lessons from Japanese Poetry. And there are different Japanese poetic forms. In this specific talk, we'll be discussing about one of Japanese poetic forms known as haiku. Before that, we'll make sure that we don't have interruption here. Perfect.
Now we're back.
Thank you again. Thank you again. Uh, so, before starting this talk, I would like to request us to raise our hands if we are already familiar with haiku. About 3.5 of us. So, yeah, thank you so much. So, those of us who are not familiar with it, there's nothing to worry about. We'll discuss it as we move along. And before discussing what haiku is, I'd like to share a little bit of a personal story on how I got inspired to explore this specific topic. So, in spring 2023, I came across this collection of poems known as Japanese death poems, which consisted of haiku poems written by Jain monks and haiku poets on the verge of death. I immensely enjoyed reading this book, and through this book, I got introduced to haiku. And a few months later, I joined a local haiku group. So I live in the Pacific Northwest, and I joined a local haiku group known as Haiku Northwest. I attended one of their virtual meetings, and through that meeting, I got I got more knowledge about haiku, and I also got inspired to explore even more. And again, few months later, I attended a conference known as Seebeck Haiku Getaway, and through that conference, I got an opportunity to learn more about haiku, and again, I got inspired to explore even more. Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. No? Here. Cool. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, let me start from this point, this slide itself. So, few months later, I attended a conference known as Seebeck Haiku Getaway, and through that conference, I got. Also, in that conference, I got an opportunity to learn more about haiku, and I got inspired to explore even more. Again, in the winter that year, so winters in Pacific Northwest are cold and gray, unlike here in Manila. And most of my time that winter was spent staying indoors, reading haiku and practicing a little bit. So what is haiku then? The old pond, a frog jumps in, Sound of Water by Matsuo Baso. In this poem, the poet is portraying a scene of an old pond, or he's referring to a specific pond, and then the poet is capturing the moment when the frog jumps into the water and creates a splash type of sound. Evening wind, water laps the heron's legs by Yosa Buson. So Master Buson was also a painter, and the influence of painting is also clearly reflected in this poem. A world of dew, and within every dewdrop, a world of struggle by Kobayashi Isa. The summer river, although there's a breeze, my horse goes through the water by Masaoka Siki. So far we explored 4 different haiku poems by 4 different great Japanese haiku masters. So what are the attributes in these poems that make these poems haiku? So one of the attributes is the focus on a specific moment. For example, in the first poem, the poet is focusing on the specific moment when the frog jumps into the water and creates a splash type of sound. The second attribute is 2-part structure. Although there are 3 lines in haiku, there are actually 2 parts. So in the first poem, we can say that the old pond could be considered 1 part, frog jumping in and creating a splash type of sound could be considered another part. Third is the uses of season word or kigo. In the first poem, frog is considered a season word or an indicator for spring. Fourth is the use of cutting word or kirezi in Japanese. So those are the specific words in Japanese that separate 2 parts. So in English, the same effect could be achieved by the uses of line breaks or punctuations. So in addition to this attribute, haiku is also typically known for its for brevity, and then haiku is also known for the uses of simple imagery. And third part, haiku is known for objectivity, which means which means it would be a good practice to portray things as they are and not inject poets' bias on them. So these are the attributes that make a poem haiku, but these are not strict requirements. So it is up to the poet to make a judgment whether adding one attribute strengthens the effect of haiku or whether it diminishes the effect of the haiku. So it is up to the poet to make the judgment. So this and then traditionally haiku is written in 575 syllable format, especially in Japanese. But modern English haiku, it doesn't strictly adhere to 575 pattern. And I have also heard some of the haiku groups in Japan, they too do not strictly adhere to 575 syllable pattern. And this is a software engineering conference, and more precisely, this is a Python conference. Next we'll be exploring the parallels between computer programming and haiku poetics, or more specifically, the parallels between Jane of Python and haiku poetics. So, Jane of Python is the set of 20 aphorisms that tells us how to write beautiful Python code, or rather, how to write a Pythonic code. In addition to it, it also tells us how to find an elegant solution to a problem. And it also emphasizes on the clarity of thought when we are coming up with a solution to a problem. And one of the aphorisms in Zen of Python is simple is better than complex. Passport check. My shadow waits across the border by George Swed. So this is an example of simplicity in haiku. Although being very simple, this haiku is portraying a deep meaning. It might have been written many, many years ago, but it still, I still find it as a commentary on the current political scenario, especially in the United States. Just like this poem, simplicity is also a virtue in programming. If we have a simpler solution to a problem, then always the simpler solution is preferred over the complex one. But simple doesn't necessarily mean easy, but it's just opposite. Coming up with a simple solution to a complex software engineering problem is often a difficult task. It requires a lot of time and it requires a lot of effort. Next aphorism is sparse is better than dense. And sparsity in haiku is achieved through the use of kirezi or the cutting words. So those cutting words, they allow the reader to breathe and to grasp the haiku better. And sparsity in code, it can be achieved through the uses of white spaces. Through the use of white space, we also allow the reader of the code, who is still a human being, to breathe and to understand the code better. So in this example, the density of the code, it increases from top to bottom, and as the density of the code increases, the code becomes less readable, and it also becomes less maintainable. So the sparse version, which is the first one, is preferred over second or the third one. Next aphorism is beautiful is better than ugly. So in haiku, beauty is something that we perceive in the natural world, and not just the perfect aspect of nature, but also the imperfect and chaotic aspect of nature as well. And beauty is also, in haiku, beauty is also something that we observe in impermanence of things, or it can be impermanence of things, which can also be said something like bittersweet moment of pleasure, and cherry blossoms is a classic example of beauty in impermanence. The feeling, we find pleasure in viewing cherry blossoms, but that pleasure also comes with the realization that it's not gonna last forever. It's gonna last maybe just few days. But the idea of beauty in code is slightly different than the idea of beauty in poetry or in haiku. In my opinion, a code could be considered beautiful if it's readable, if it's consistent in style, if it consists of only the things that are needed, not anything less, not anything more, and if it's maintainable. So in these two versions, based on the earlier aspects of beauty in code, we could say that the second version is more beautiful than the first one. It's not necessarily short, but it adheres to other three principles of beauty. So the second version can be considered more beautiful. Next aphorism is readability counts. Inflation, still a penny for a wish, by Bandana Parasar. So this haiku is an example of readability. It subtly tells us something. And just as demonstrated in this haiku, readability in haiku can be achieved by using everyday words, everyday things, and similarly, in code 2, readability is achieved through the uses of standard practices. through the uses of conventional methods. Here, second is a conventional way of computing the squares of first 5 numbers, and yeah, it is easier to read. Next aphorism is now is better than never. So haiku poets, after they come up with the first draft of the poem, they iterate the poem in their head many times until they come up with a polished version. And they might even share it to their haiku study group. And the group might have feedback on it. And after incorporating the feedback, they might again send it to the editor of a magazine or a journal, who again might have suggestions on top of it. So a small poem like haiku, too, has to go through a series of refactorings from the first draft to the production version. But this aphorism is not focusing on the series of refactorings. It's actually focusing on the first step itself, that of coming up with the first draft. Or in programming context, it could be said quick prototyping. So, this aphorism is focusing on quick prototyping, and now in the age of AI, this particular task is getting easier and easier. But this aphorism actually comes up with a condition that although never is often better than right now. So not everything that comes to a poet's mind deserves to be penned down as haiku. Similarly, not every feature that we discuss deserves implementation. Some of the features, they do deserve implementation. Some of the features, they deserve implementation, but not right now. And some of the features, they deserve to be discarded altogether. It is up to the team and the developer to make a decision. So far, we explored few aphorisms in Jane of Python that actually align with haiku poetics. Next, we'll be exploring one of the aphorism that actually contradicts with, uh, with haiku poetics. So the aphorism is, explicit is better than implicit. And in programming, explicit is almost being explicit is almost always preferred over being implicit. For example, in this in this example, second is the explicit version where we know exactly what's going on in the code. And using the second version, we also avoid compiler or interpreter level surprises. So the second version is preferred over the first one. So in general, being explicit is always a virtue in programming. But maybe not in haiku. A crow caws, I also am alone, by Santoka Taneda. So there's a little bit of ambiguity in this poem, at least in the English translation. We do not know who is saying, I also am alone. Is it the crow that's cawing and then saying, hey poet, not just you, but I, crow, am also alone? Or is it the poet that is hearing the crow caw and saying, hey crow, not just you, but I, the poet, am also alone? So this type of ambiguity is considered good in haiku, but in programming we may want to avoid this ambiguity. We may want to be explicit and minimize implicity. So in this specific poem, most of the readers who have read Santoka Taneda's life, they lean towards the second interpretation, that the poet saying, I also am alone. So far, we explored different aphorisms, a few aphorisms from the Zen of Python, and and then we discussed how some of them align with haiku poetics and how one of them does not align with haiku poetic. And next, we'll be discussing about different software engineering lessons that we could pick from haiku practice. Oh, sorry, did you have any question? Sure,
Uh, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
sure.
You mentioned ambiguity is good in haiku. Why? How?
Ambiguity is good in haiku because um, one a piece of haiku can give multiple meaning. That's one aspect, and another, it also engages the reader. So if the meaning is clear, then the reader won't get an opportunity to engage with the haiku. But if the meaning is unclear, then it allows them to engage better. So that would be the reason. Yes. Thank you. So we were in the software engineering lessons. Thank you for your question. And the first lesson that we could learn from haiku and adapt that in software engineering practice is that of simplicity. So we discussed about it earlier as well, but uh, haiku teaches us that the most effective form of communication is the simplest. And by communication, by form of communication, I'm not just referring to natural language communication, I'm also referring to using code as a form of communication. Even in the age of AI, I still believe that human beings are also the consumer of the code as much as the machine, so simplicity is still important. The second lesson is that of embracing imperfection. So the idea that an ideal system does not exist, an ideal software engineering system does not exist, and the system is always a work in progress. So it's telling us to focus on continuous iterative development towards perfection. Third lesson is that of minimalism. I would define it as keeping only the things that are needed, not anything less, not anything more. The last lesson is that of objectivity. So, as software engineers or as individuals working on technology, sometimes we are very passionate with our engineering ideas. Haiku tells us to pause a little bit and to actually be dispassionate with our engineering ideas. This means it tells us, so it helps us make a right judgment and avoid bias when we are making judgment. So this is the lesson that we could learn from haiku practice. We are almost at the end of the talk, and I feel haiku is Python's poetic sibling in literature. And in the age of AI, the art of writing code, or rather typing the code, is getting lesser and lesser relevant. But that doesn't mean that the art of solving problems is getting any less relevant. Just like poets find pleasure in the process itself of writing poetry, may we all find pleasure in the process itself of solving problems, regardless of the tools we use. With that, I'd like to end this talk. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience.